Every year during the tax filing season, taxpayers across America try to figure out the answer to one question. What is the perfect amount for my refund? Of course, there are a lot of other more important questions, but this one seems to get so much time and attention. I think in part it's because most of the big tax prep softwares out there advertise as if getting a large refund was the only way to win when it comes to your taxes. And that's simply not the case. Whether you have a refund at tax time or you make a payment is strictly a timing issue. This is, did we pay enough taxes during the year? Now, that leads to a whole range of possible outcomes. We could be magic and get it break even and not have to pay anything in or get a refund of any kind. That rarely happens. We could have very large payments due that will at times result in underpayment penalties. Not a fan of that. That's a terrible way to tip the IRS. We want to make sure that we aren't inadvertently adding more to our tax bill just by not paying on time. On the other end of the spectrum, we could have very large refunds, which is why we have this written on the board behind us of, is having a giant refund just an interest-free loan to the IRS? That's the pushback I'll hear from people is I don't want to give an interest-free loan to the IRS, so I want to make sure I don't get a refund at tax time or don't get a large refund. And there is some logic to that. Absolutely, the IRS is not going to pay you interest for the money they held on to during the year. If you've gotten interest from the IRS in the past, that only happens when they delay the timing of payments being made, which is not frequent, but especially during COVID, that came up a little bit more often. So you might be thinking, well, they gave me interest a couple years ago, let's just keep going with that route. That is not the norm, that is very much the exception. So while there's certainly some logic to if we let the IRS hold on to our money during the year, there's a missed opportunity there. We want to think about this in the big picture of things, the long term. That's how we come out ahead with the IRS. And we also want to think about the behavioral side of that. The whole reason I'm doing this video is because I recently had a conversation with a client who's going to get a $40,000 refund this year. Last year, they got a $30,000 refund. And there are some people who will just adamantly tell you that's a waste, it's a missed opportunity, you're doing a bad job as a tax preparer, Stephen, if you let someone get that big of a refund. And that, I don't agree with that extreme of a view. In general, my preference is that we're going to be within $1,000. Payment or refund, I'm going to err on the side of a refund because most people don't like writing extra checks to the IRS. But we absolutely, more than anything, want to make sure that we have an intentional approach. My first goal is to avoid surprises at tax time. So for this particular taxpayer, they really just embrace the fact that if they get money all at once, they're going to do something more productive, more intentional, more towards their long-term goals, as opposed to if we were to adjust their withholdings so that they got a little bit more each month in their bank account. Their concern is that they would use that here and there and it all just dry up and they wouldn't have this large chunk of money to put towards a bigger goal. It's a little bit of a forced savings plan. Now, if I got to wave a magic wand and decide how everyone did it, like I said, this would be refund of less than $1,000. But as long as I can have a conversation with the taxpayer to say, here's what our alternatives are, here's how we could do something about this, I'm okay with an outcome where they get a large refund if that's intentional, if that's the situation they want to find themselves in March and April of each year. So no, the fact that you're giving them the IRS an interest-free loan should not in and of itself dictate how you approach what size of a refund you get. Intentionality is so much more important. On the other side of things, we definitely want to avoid paying underpayment penalties. So we need to make sure that we're either have withholdings that are high enough, we have estimated payments that are high enough. We've got to get to 90+% of our tax bill paid in for the year. There's a couple other ways we can go about that, but that's the safest one for sure. But again, intentionality is what counts here. So if someone tells you, hey, here's the perfect amount for your refund or the perfect amount for your payment, it's situational. It's like other tax planning. We got to make sure it fits your situation and the outcome you're looking for. Happy tax planning.